Israeli ethnic groups, the challenges of equality and diversity in the Jewish state. Hey! Hi. Hello. Many people think Israel is only made up of Jews and Arabs. Seriously? What about Christians, Muslims, Baha'i, the Bedouin? It may not be Manhattan, but there's a lot going on. That's the point. People think Israel has only 2 ethnic groups, but it's actually super diverse. Israel is made up of not only a lot of minority groups, an ethnic hodgepodge, patchwork, potpourri thing. It's a beautiful experiment in unity, diversity, multiculturalism. Oh yeah, multicultural, as long as the country remains a Jewish state. Explain to me how that works again? Yeah, well, you see... can we just hold for a second? Know-it-all, Google, Wikipedia, Whovian, Time Lord, Chloe, hybrid here. Before we get all flummoxed, I should chime in. Please. Israel's Declaration of Independence is pretty much a case study for understanding paradoxes. On the one hand, it was established as a Jewish state based on the Jewish people's natural and historic rights and connections to the land. Just to be clear, we're not talking Judaism as a religion or theocracy. Israel totally has freedom of religion. In this context, Judaism is referring to a nationality or peoplehood. The Jews have a right to self-determination, like any other people. But it also stresses that Israel will, and I quote, ensure complete equality of social and political rights to all its inhabitants, irrespective of religion, race, or sex. Complete equality. Says so right there. So long as it doesn't jeopardize the Jewishness of the Jewish state. Thus the paradox. But you know what? One particular ethnic group in Israel does a really great job of illustrating that very paradox. Oh? The Israeli Druze. Not Jews, Druze. The Druze community in Israel, which numbers around 143,000, lives predominantly in northern Israel and are what people like to call a model minority. Did you seriously just say model minority? Wow, nothing like generalizations and demeaning by comparison. Though boiling down a community to 2 words is offensive, the Druze are super loyal citizens that are actually... Wasn't I doing this? The Druze community, a 1,000-year-old offshoot of Shiite Islam, is an Arabic-speaking monotheistic group who do not have set holy days, are super loyal citizens to the country in which they live, of whom 99% of their population say they believe in God and rarely marry outside their community. And what, you're just gonna leave it at that run-on sentence? Okay, the truth is that I don't know too much about them because, wait for it, their actual beliefs are secrets. Shh. And are closely guarded by their religious leaders. But despite the secrecy, here's what we do know. Israel is super important to their spiritual identity. First off, you know how every religion has its greatest prophet? For the Jews, Moses. For Christians, Jesus. The Muslims, Muhammad. And John the Baptist inspired Mandeanism. Right, but the prophet for the Druze is none other than Jethro, the high priest of Midian and father-in-law of Moses. You remember the movie The Prince of Egypt, right? Wait. The guy who joined the Jews in the desert after they left slavery in Egypt? That's pretty cool. In fact, the name of the Torah portion where the Jews get the 10 Commandments in Mount Sinai is named Jethro, the Hebrew name for Jethro, after him. Exactly. The Druze's most revered prophet was someone who became Jewish and was dedicated to helping the people of Israel. So if you think about it, it makes total sense that the Druze would feel a strong bond to the Jewish people today. Sure, that's pretty fascinating, but you're not the only one who knows a thing or two about the Druze. You know they don't have a motherland to call their own? They dedicate themselves to whichever state they belong to. The Israeli Druze strongly support the Israeli government as the Syrian Druze strongly support the Syrian government. Their bond is so strong to Israel that they have what is called a blood covenant, or Brit Damim in Hebrew, and it means that they share a tremendous sense of loyalty, allegiance, and patriotism. In fact, Amar Nasser al-Din, a former Druze member of the Israeli government, said it best. The state of Israel is a Jewish state as well as a democratic state that espouses equality and elections. This is a blood pact, and a pact of the living. Now let's be real. The Israeli Druze experience has been far from perfect. Listen, Israel, like most nations, is a complex state with a dual nature. Its identity is not one thing, but that's okay. Think about me. I'm black, I grew up Christian, I love Shabbat dinner and learning about Israel. I'm also not monolithic. So because of that, I feel a tremendous kinship with the Jews. I may not be Arab, no, I don't practice a secretive religion, and no, I don't even live in Israel. But like the Druze, I do deeply identify with Israel and the Israeli people. I totally agree. The Druze are dope. They've made massive contributions to the public service of the country, specifically in security. The community has an 85% rate of serving in the Israeli army, which is actually a higher rate than Jewish Israelis. Fun fact, only 73% of Israeli Jews serve. And though Druze make up only about 2% of the Israeli population, actually it's 1.61%. Fact-checking is fun. They have been highly represented in the government, such as being members of the Knesset, diplomatic positions, and military positions, including former Brigadier General Imad Fares. Relative to the small size of their population in the country, they've been involved at an extraordinary level. But the reason that I identify with them is from my own experiences. I am super dedicated to sharing and celebrating the stories of the Israeli people. And to be real, I've really dedicated my life to sharing the stories of Israelis with the world. But to be honest, there are people who don't make me feel welcome, or who are dismissive of the sense of fierce loyalty I have for what I do. And it doesn't surprise me in the slightest when I hear the Druze community experiencing something similar. Like with the nation-state bill. Oof. We're going there? Okay. The controversial Israel as the nation-state of the Jewish people basic law was adopted by the Knesset in July of 2018. Though mostly symbolic and declarative, the bill does state that Israel is a Jewish state, which it totally is, and made Arabic, the language that Druze speak, a special status, leaving the Druze and other Arabic speakers feeling their language was not on equal footing with Hebrew. Believe me, I get that. And I get that many of them were offended that the legislation didn't reiterate equality for all Israeli citizens, as it does in Israel's Declaration of Independence. But navigating a land where identities are so tightly interwoven can be super tricky and complicated. Samir al-Assad, a 51-year-old retired lieutenant colonel Druze, probably said it best. Israel is my country. I am proud to be an Israeli. But this law made me feel humiliated. But despite these challenges, the bond appears to be strong. Even in the wake of protests against the nation-state bill, most Druze said they would still continue to serve with distinction in the army because it's their country and they are Israeli. I gotta say, I think we Americans can learn a thing or two from that. For sure. That's real loyalty. Passionate loyalty. Disagreement without disillusionment. Being able to argue, debate, and adamantly disagree without, taking your ball and going home. If we can stop putting people and countries into boxes with one identity. We just need to remember, people are multifaceted, and the identity and diversity of all democracies is fluid. Israel has many diverse ethnic groups and demographics. It may make things messy, but that's also what makes it awesome. Cultural pluralism, where you get to be you and I get to be me. And guess what? We both grow from it.